Hello and happy Labor Day, everyone. Welcome to your daily briefing. Today, we're going to talk about some promising stimulus check and stimulus package news. Then we're going to go a bit in depth on what it'll take to actually get a stimulus bill passed, especially in the House. That it's going to be quite interesting. And then we're going to talk about what's happening with the payroll tax deferral program and everything you need to know, whether you're an employee or a business owner. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's start off by talking about the second stimulus check and the next stimulus package. For a short period, it's felt like the fight for more stimulus kind of toned down a bit, and I could tell by the excitement around the subject. Many people just simply didn't believe more stimulus was actually going to happen anymore, including some legislators. I can see in the comments, people are just saying, not going to happen anymore. Well, I'm here to say there are still people pushing for more relief, including President Trump and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. These two held a press conference yesterday where Mnuchin said, and this is a quote from him, "The president and I believe we should do more stimulus. We have about 7.5 million jobs we need to get back until we're back to where we were, and we want to help small businesses. We want to help businesses that are particularly impacted by this and will continue to work on proposed legislation." I was just really glad to see this, and I get a sense that the fight is just not over. It made me feel pretty good about it. Mnuchin went on to say that Speaker Pelosi has refused to sit down and negotiate unless they agree beforehand that the total package size will be something in the neighborhood of $2.5 trillion. And this is really the most major issue at this point. I just find it so odd that for like 80% of the relief bill, both Democrats and Republicans agree on the areas that deserve funding. However, the amount of funding is the big deal breaker. And here's the best analogy I can think of to describe it. It's like you tripped your teammate in order to make them look bad, but then you both lose the game as a result. You might have made yourself look a little bit more skilled than your teammate, but you still both lost at the end of the day. So back to Mnuchin. He wants to do a more targeted bill, the skinny bill that we keep on hearing about, which is set to be unveiled later on this week once the Senate returns from their recess. As of the latest description of this skinny bill, the proposal is set to be about $500 billion in size, and I personally just don't see this going anywhere unless it's at around $1.3 trillion. I just think it's going to be too hard to get any Democrats to agree on something that small as of right now. I saw a good question in the comments the other day, and it basically went something like this. It went, so we have over 100 Democrats in the House who would like to vote on enhanced unemployment as a solution separately from some comprehensive bill. Can a bill go through without Speaker of the House Pelosi's approval? And I thought this was really interesting. It's not anything that I've covered before, so I want to explain this in depth so everyone can understand the Speaker's role in all this. So to first help explain this, let's talk about the legislative process a little bit within the House. A bill gets placed on the desk of the clerk in the House. That bill then gets sent to its appropriate committee, who can then comment on it, form a subcommittee, hold hearings, revise the bill, do a bunch of things, or they can approve the bill for a vote. From here comes floor action. The bill is placed on a calendar, usually in the order it's received. However, not all bills actually reach the floor. The Speaker of the House decides what will actually be voted on the House's floor. And this is where things get a bit odd. You might be thinking there are 435 representatives in the House, but one person can decide if a bill gets voted on? And the answer is yes. Well, kind of. This is the duty of the Speaker of the House, word for word. The Speaker is responsible for ensuring that the House passes legislation supported by the majority party. In pursuing this goal, the Speaker may use their power to determine when each bill reaches the floor. They also chair the majority party's steering committee in the House. So in short, the Speaker's job is to help the majority party only. There is no incentive for cooperation, and this is partly due to what is called the Hassert Rule. And that rule says the Speaker will not allow a floor vote on a bill unless a majority of the majority party supports the bill. So it's important to note that this rule is not law, but more of a general guideline that's usually followed. And also, this rule is very commonly criticized, and I'm sure you can see why. The New York Times says the Hassert rule has come to be seen as a structural barrier to compromise, and The Hill says it can lead to a breakdown of the legislative process, radicalization of the members of the minority party, and legislation that does not reflect the broadest view of the area of agreement. So now you might be thinking, okay, so if Pelosi doesn't like a stimulus bill, we're basically out of luck. That doesn't seem fair or democratic. What the heck's going on? And the answer is sadly kind of yes. There really is only one way around this, but it's rare, and the House doesn't like using it. It's called a discharge petition. Basically, if a simple majority of 218 House members sign a discharge petition, a vote can be forced on a bill without approval from the Speaker. It seems like this would be common practice, but it's actually only been used 5 times since 1985. The issue is it's kind of embarrassing for the Speaker if their own party signs a petition basically saying, hey, the leader of our party has poor judgment. Discharge petitions used to be more common because votes were private in the past, so someone could sign the petition without worrying about later retaliation from the Speaker, but this is no longer the case. So in summary, it's very unlikely to get a bill passed without the House majority and Speaker's well wishes. There are workarounds, but these are rare and kind of considered political suicide. This is a major flaw of the legislative process, in my opinion. It goes against cooperation and honestly just feels kind of un-American. Anyways, moving on. Now that you know how that works, let's get back to the news. The House has introduced 2 measures that would block President Trump's payroll tax initiatives. This bill is fairly straightforward. It would nullify current IRS guidance that allows employers to defer Social Security taxes from the employee side of payroll. I find it kind of surprising that there's even any energy going into blocking this, to be honest, because I don't personally know a single business owner who has opted to use this program for their employees. It's pretty easy to see, as an employer myself, using this program would likely just end up hurting employees in the long run, as they'll have to pay double taxes for a period starting the new year. It's just putting off today's problems to tomorrow. So here's something you might find interesting. I use a payroll company to facilitate my business's workers' comp and payroll. It's a huge company with billions of dollars in revenue. They have clients all over the country, and they actually sent out an email to all of their business owner clients saying that they recommend their clients not to use this payroll deferral initiative, and gave the following reasons. First, they say employers bear the risk of repaying the deferred taxes for employees who leave or are terminated prior to fully repaying their deferred tax amounts. That alone will stop most business owners from using the program. Second, and this is what I mentioned earlier, it doesn't help people in the long run because it needs to be paid back later. And third and finally is some tax issues. There is not a simple process for deferring this tax, for reporting the deferral on payroll reports or tax forms, for collecting the tax in 2021. They basically just say this process is very manual and may have further impacts on a business's internal accounting or other reporting. It's basically going to be kind of hard to do, especially if you're a small business owner and you don't have in-house accountants and lawyers and things like that. I just don't see many businesses actually going through with this. I'd personally just rather give my employees loans instead of using this program. So moving on from here, the Fed has expected interest rates to remain low for a while, potentially years. And there's a quote from the Fed chairman on this. He says, "We think that the economy is going to need low interest rates which support economic activity for an extended period of time. It will be measured in years." The central bank has now stated that they will allow annual inflation to float above their 2% per year usual target for a period of time. Typically, inflation is held lower by raising interest rates back up. From here, and finally, the economy added 1.4 million jobs in August, lowering unemployment rates down to 8.4% from 10.2% in July. This is huge progress. However, we still have a long ways to go on this. And also, I talked about this briefly on Friday in relation to the stock market, unemployment that is. I posted a video where I go in depth on what is happening in the stock market, including why it's seen record highs in the middle of a pandemic and why more currently we're seeing some corrections and decreases in prices. So if you're interested at all in stocks or investments, I strongly recommend checking out that video, as it was one of the most researched videos I've ever made, and I'm pretty proud of it. It really put things into perspective for me when I made it, and I think it's worth a watch. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. Anyways, that's all I have for today. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.